Okay, welcome to Google Slides Classroom Applications. You do have access to this presentation. It is linked on the Summer PD handout where you're joining our meet, right? The presentation slides are right there, and you can access that on our instructional technology website. Jenny and Sarah are on today, so if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat and they can help answer that. Or if you feel comfortable, you're more than welcome to unmute yourself and then ask those questions live. I do have a lot of things that I'd like to cover and share with you today, so I will be moving relatively quickly. However, I did link everything in this presentation. So all of the examples that I have in this presentation are linked, and then you can either get that, it will either ask you to make a copy of it or allow you to view the file so that you can have some of those ideas as you start thinking about how to use Google Slides in maybe new and interesting ways in the fall. So that being said, we are going to get started. So when we're talking about Google Slides, and I absolutely love Google Slides because of all the different things that you can do with it. If you were on my session last week, we talked about how you can resize a Google Slide to be like a sheet of paper. And a lot of these examples that you will see is using that technique of resizing the Google Slide to make it fit your needs. So the first thing that you can do with your students or yourself is creating posters. Here's a couple examples. This first one that we did was with middle school students. And again, if you hover over it and you can click on it, it will open up that new document for you. You'll notice that we did resize this. The teacher that wanted to create these posters wanted to have the ability to print them, and they wanted to be able to print them on an 11 by 17. So we actually did resize this so that it was a larger piece of paper if you went to go and print it. But that's just something that you can really work with your students to do, is by creating these posters. And then the poster over here on the right-hand side is a template that we created for 4th grade students so that they could do something very similar, but just with a little bit more guidance. Another great thing to use for Google Slides is by creating your own anchor charts or posters yourself. This is an example of a poster that was created at a middle school that they used as an anchor chart. And again, the great thing about Google Slides is that you can manipulate all of those text boxes and images, and you can put them so that they look that they have a nice flow, versus if you use Google Docs. Anyone who has tried to do formatting in Google Docs has probably noticed that it can be a little finicky. So again, Google Slides is great for creating some of those posters. Also, with virtual learning, a lot of people have been asking about, okay, well, how can I create a worksheet that's digital, whether it's my math curriculum, science curriculum, or etc. And you can create interactive journals or worksheets by using Google Slides. Again, that first step would be to resize it to be a sheet of paper, so 8.5 by 11. But then once you have that, the really nice thing is you can create borders. You can make it a little bit more fun and interactive. So here's an example of a daily journal that was created. You're more than welcome to click on that and take a peek. But what we did is we put in a slide for each day, and then students were to go in and then type as a journal entry in a digital journal. You'll also, if you were on our workplace, you might have seen Father's Day or Mother's Day activities that our department pushed out. And when you click on one of these things, there's a couple tips and tricks that I'll suggest for you when you're creating a digital worksheet. And the first thing is you're going to want to take a screenshot of whatever you want your students to fill out, but not be able to delete, right? So if you're creating a digital worksheet manually on a Google Slide, I suggest putting all those text boxes, all those backgrounds, all those images and borders, and then taking a screenshot of it. And once you do that, and I know we talked about this a little bit last week, but then you can insert that JPEG as a background file. Because now you'll notice here as a student, I do not have the ability to delete any of my text. The only thing that as a student I could possibly delete are these type here text boxes, but that wouldn't be the end of the world if I accidentally got rid of that. If you are using an electronic worksheet with younger students, I do also recommend that you put in some of those text boxes unless you're explicitly going to teach them how they can manually add a text box. But, students sometimes, if I notice here I have 5 things I love about my grandpa, I notice there are 5 different text boxes to type in. That's just much easier for the students than saying, okay, now go and add 5 separate ones and drag them to where they belong. So just a couple things to think about when you're creating those digital worksheets. Here's a couple additional examples of digital worksheets. The one on the left with the owl is for kindergarten. Okay, so how would you use a digital worksheet with kindergarten? If your students are using Seesaw, this would be a great place to create a template and then import that into Seesaw. And before Seesaw did their updates, I suggested a lot of teachers creating their worksheets in slides and then importing it into Seesaw. However, Seesaw has made some changes this summer which are great for you Seesaw users, so you could probably manually create something like this in Seesaw itself, but there is always that option. Another example here is if you are doing any phonics. I'll have maybe Jenny or Sarah, if you could put that in the chat, but for those of you who don't know, there is a working document for the Sheboygan Area School District of all phonics lessons that have either been created by our team or other teachers around the district. And they have examples for Seesaw, and they also have examples for Google Slides if you were to use it with Google Classroom. So this is just one example. Again, it's an interactive worksheet, so you have the ability to, I created this template. I inserted the main template as a background so that students don't have the ability to delete any of the words that I already pre-typed. All that the student can do then is click here. You'll notice I put a text box for them, and then they're able to type in that text box. Any quick questions about worksheets before we move on? Those are just some examples. Really, the sky's the limit when you're thinking about creating digital worksheets. Okay, moving on to maybe some more fun things. Google Slides is actually great for creating flashcards and also table tents if you want to have something physical that you can print for your students. I like using it because, again, of the ability to manipulate a text box. So you'll notice in this is an example of a table tent. So where we'd print it out and then fold it, right, and put it in little stations around the room. But all I did was I created multiple text boxes and then just used the rotate feature. So when you create a text box in Google Slides, if you click on one of the edges, you'll notice that you get the boxes on the corners and also along the sides. That allows you to shrink or adjust the size of your text box. But you'll also notice that you have this circle at the very top, and it might be hard to see on mine, so I apologize. But this little circle allows you to adjust the view of that box. So I can change my text to be oriented any way that I would like by using this circle. So in this situation, I created my text box. I just duplicated that text box and then flipped it so that when I print it, it's good to go. I don't have to worry about doing anything else. And again, you could do the same thing using flashcards if you wanted. You could have multiple text boxes on a page so that all you have to do is easily cut. In addition to just creating things for your students, this I saw recently on Canva, or not Canva, Slides Mania, and that was one of the places I shared last week. If you're not familiar, check out Slides Mania or Slides Carnival. They have a lot of great templates on there for free that you can use. My pencil template is actually from them. So I didn't create these images. I got this template and then am using that in this presentation. But one thing is creating personalized computer backgrounds, right? So if you wanted to, you could use this on a Google slide, and again, it is linked there. You could type into it, and then you would download the slide as a JPEG file, and then you could add that as your background. So a lot of different cool things if you wanted to have like a mobile desktop for you, like a mobile version of that. Another great thing you can do when you using Google Slides is create your own games. So here's an example of a game board that I created for a 5th grade classroom. And along the right-hand side, you'll notice it's very similar to like Candyland. That's where this game was based off of. So I have these cards that students would randomly pick, and then they would get to move forward. But the game board itself was actually created in Google Slides as well. So you'll notice as it's loading all those different image files, but I just put a background or a border. I included different pictures, and then I was able to use a lot of screenshots to build this interactive board. Again, it was very nice because, again, each of these are its own image file. I used that rotate to make it look like they were walking along a path. And I didn't have to worry about formatting because Google Slides allows you to lay things over each other versus in a Google Doc where, you know, if there's a text there, you can't have a picture over the top of it. So just a couple ideas. Here are some additional game boards that were created. This first one is actually a memory game template that I worked with a kindergarten teacher on, using to play with their students via Google Meet during our virtual learning. So we created these game board templates. The teacher managed it and was able to like run the meet with the students. The students would say number 1 and number 7. They then moved them and then moved them back. So that's one template. This one, the Snakes and Ladders game, is a template I did not create myself, but it was shared, and there's a bunch of different games on that one, so please feel free to click on the link and see all the additional games, but it walks students through how you would play that with, you know, a group of students or one other student virtually. And then the last one is a Guess Who game that, again, I created, where you have the ability, and when you click on it, there's instructions along the side. There's all the tools that you would need. Oh, this one's going to ask me to make a copy, which I'm not going to do right now. But everything's built in and ready to go there. And you can modify that to be however you'd like. I know that there was a teacher who wanted to put their own students in the Guess Who board. So they just had to change those images, and then they were able to do that. Or maybe you are a history teacher and you're learning about famous historical people from a certain time period. You can adjust that any way that you'd like. In addition to, you know, creating digital games, you can also create digital newsletters. So here's just a couple examples. Again, we use that slide resize, so to 8.5 by 11. And these are just 2 examples of a newsletter or poster that I created. Again, it's really great because you can have those borders, you can have those pictures and manipulate them how you would like. So there are 2 examples there. We also have been talking a lot about choice boards. So here are a couple examples of choice boards that were created. These first 2 examples, the March activity mat and the bingo card, were ones that we physically printed and then used in the classroom, but we used Google Slides to create that choice board. The following ones that I'm going to show you are more digital choice boards, so if we are virtual learning in the fall, you are more than welcome to be able to use choice boards whether we're in person or not. And again, all of these are linked on here. If you just click on it, you'll be able to make a copy and see those originals. Here are some of those digital choice boards. This is an example of a choice board from a kindergarten teacher. So what you do is you will click on each one, and they're linked to different things. So reading a book, watching a video, and then learning something, and then watching an additional video, right? This can be used via Google Classroom. It can also be pushed out via Seesaw. So there's a lot of options with these digital choice boards. And again, everything is then just linked in. This one isn't specifically linked, but if you were to go to the original, you'd be able to click on each of these and it would take students to a different site. So that's just one example of a choice boards. Here again are some examples from Slides Mania and Slides Carnival. These are ones that they already have pre-created. And what's really cool about that is when students are in present mode, when they click on something, so real quickly, I'll just switch. So I'm going to click on the start to get started. It takes me to the next slide. And then depending on what I click on as a student, so for example, this Title 1, it will take me to that slide. And that's using slide linking, which again, we talked about last week. And that's pre-done for you via Slides Mania and Slides Carnival. So if you get one of these templates, you don't have to worry about doing the slide linking yourself. For this example, I did include the copy in the notes at the bottom, just so you're aware. It's not on the actual image itself, but there is a link down here where you would be able to copy that and get these templates. So here's just one example. Here's an additional example again. This was from Slides Mania of a choice board. Again, everything's slide linked. So if I click on the home button, it will take me back to that main page if I'm a student. And then here's, different activities that you can do. And again, that is linked below. Not quite as pretty, but still a choice board. Here's one from Casey Bell. This would be a tic-tac-toe choice board. So if you wanted to give students multiple options, you then create this. You could use this tic-tac-toe where they have to do 3 across, down, or vertically. Again, hers is also slide linked. So if I click on one of these, it will take me to the slide that has the activity and the directions. So in this case, I would probably, if I was using this tic-tac-toe, I would write a little bit about what the activity is, and then I would link it to the directions more in depth for the student to complete. And again, there's the link at the bottom. If this is one that you would like, you can get a copy of it, or you could also visit her website to learn more. This is another example. Again, this is from Slides Mania, more geared towards older kids. This is great if you are going to be doing distant learning and you want to push out content for an entire week, right? You can see that we have the file cabinets. If they click on the Monday, the file cabinet would then open. And then they have different topics, folders inside that they could click on, and then it would take them to the actual activity. Again, all the slide linking is done for you, but another great idea when you're thinking about planning your curriculum for the fall. I also did just on this document include some examples of the choice board. So from that very first example with the different books geared more towards younger kids, although you could use it at any grade level. Here is just some of those templates. This one has 8 different ones. This one has 6, and then there's also the 4. And because it's a Google slide, again, you can click and adjust things and move things around. That's why the example I initially showed you, it didn't quite look like this because they adjusted it to best fit the needs of their students. But those templates are in there for you if you would like to use them. Okay, a couple more things, and then I'll pause for questions one more time. Here again is using slide linking. A couple examples. We have Create Your Own Adventure. This would be great for those older students working on their writing. Here is a template that you can use with your students. It gives them instructions and then also how to create their own adventure story. So, the first box is where they would type in the paragraph of their story. And then you have option 1 and option 2, where you would have the ability to then say, okay, well, I choose to go into the spooky forest, click here, or I choose to stay in my car, click here. And then it would take them to a different place. Here again is Westford history, and I can't remember if I showed this to you guys last week or not, but this is a great example if you want to help your students with guided research. So this is actually a slide deck that a teacher made, and they pushed it out to their students via Google Classroom. And then as a student, when they went in to do research on Westford, right, the community they're from, they could just click on one of them. And I want to be in present mode. But they can click on one of them and it takes them to learn about trains. Students can read it, watch a video, do whatever they need, click the home button, and then it brings them back to this home page. And again, this is really great if you have younger kids where you want to do some guided research, right? So you want to make sure that they're not just typing in on Google about the town and finding things that maybe you don't want them to find. But you can pre-create this, still give them a research experience, but have it be the information you want them to actually learn about. So that again is linked in there for you as an example. The last one is like a Jeopardy type format. Obviously, it doesn't say Jeopardy because of copyright, but this again is from, I want to say this one's from Slides Mania as well. There is a link there to the full presentation if you wanted to play a Jeopardy game with your students. But again, it is all slide linking. You click on one of these and then it will take you to the question and then also the answer will follow. Okay, so I'm going to pause there. Are there any questions that Jenny or Sarah would like me to address live or that you haven't gotten to before we move on?
Julia, there was a question that came up about borders. Can you show the most basic way to get a border into Google Slides? And then you already talked a little bit about Slides Mania and all the options that they have available.
Yeah, of course. So when I'm creating something and I'm looking for a border, to be honest, what I do is I Google it. I just Google, fun borders or cute school borders. And when I do that then, so let's see, school borders. Oop, and I spelled it wrong. I go to the image search. I'm just looking for some of these. Now, if you plan on just using it for personal use in your classroom, you don't have to worry about copyright. However, if you are creating something that you plan on trying to sell, whether it's on Teachers Pay Teachers or something along those lines, please make sure that you're looking for copyright free images that can be shared commercially. But since I'm just doing it for myself, I'll just type in this and not worry about that. When I find a border that I like, so maybe I really like this paperclip border, there's a couple ways you can get it. If the image allows you, you're always free to save the image. So I right-clicked, so control-click, and then I'm going to save that image. And then when I save that image, it's saved to my desktop. And then when I go into a slide, I'm going to be inserting that image as a background. Unless I plan on doing a lot more, right? If I have more text that I don't want students to move around, then I could just insert it as an image and then wait to do the background later. But I can either click on background or insert. I'm just going to insert an image from my computer. It's on my desktop. And then again, I use that little circle to adjust the direction of it. And I can click and drag it how I would like. And then make it as large as needed. Now, obviously, this border is not 100% perfect. It's a little bit blurry when I blow it up, but that's something that you can play around with when you're designing your own things. So that's just a real quick way to get borders. Any other questions?
There was a question about linking all of these links that you had suggested with Google Slides and Slides Media and things like that on our technology website. We'll work on that this afternoon. Right now, it's not currently there, but we can definitely put some of those links in there. I have drafted an email to everyone that's part of this group today, and I'll send it out as soon as Julia's presentation is completed.
Perfect, yes. And so this presentation is linked on the website already. I see a lot of you are already in here. But yeah, some of those additional sites like Slides Mania and Slides Carnival, we'll get that out to you so you have access to those. Any other questions? Okay, so last couple things that I want to share with you. Here's an example if you wanted to do something fun with older students. Again, if you click on the image, there's a link to that so you can access the original file. But this also uses slide linking, so students would have the ability to create a fake Instagram account. They can pick different images that they would like on their Instagram profile. And then when someone is to click on that image, it would bring them to a full screen page of that, and they would be able to write about that image. So a great way to get to know students at the beginning of the year, especially if we're virtual. You know, pick 9 photos that mean a lot to you, and then that could be their assignment, and then write a little bit about why they picked each photo using this template. Another thing that has been super popular lately, if you're part of any Facebook groups, educational Facebook groups, is creating a class app or a place where parents or students can access a bunch of different resources. So in this presentation, and I'm not going to play the video, but I did include a training video on how to create your own class app. If you have any questions, again, please feel free to reach out to myself or one of the tech coaches. We could help you with this. But I did want to show you a couple of examples of what it is. So on this page, we again have our instructions. So if you click on that, it tells you a little bit what it is. So this is using Google Slides to create an app for students or parents. The nice thing about parents is they can download it to their smartphone and it will look like an app. And all of that is in the instructions. So here it talks a little bit about what an app, a classroom app would be. And then here is instructions for parents on how you can download it and put it on their smartphone. So, you know, again, something that's really cool, and just that way your parents have access to the most important information that you want them to know about directly on their device. So that's available for you, but here, let me show you some examples. And this is actually from a teacher in the school district that has been working on this. So this is her classroom app. You'll notice this is her main page. So when a parent were to open the app, they would see these different options. And then as you click on them, it takes them to a different slide, again using that slide linking, so that they can look at that information. So again, this is just a template, but a really great way to, again, have that information at the fingertips of your parents. And again, all using Google Slides. So there's the published example. There is also a template here as well of how you can create that. And this, oh, actually, sorry, this template might be from, this might be from Slides Carnival as well. I'm actually not quite sure where, I can't remember exactly where I got that one from. But there is the template, and you'll notice you can use this template and then be able to share that. Sorry, this is the example of the one from our school district. So this is from Etude. And we did get permission to share this with you, but you'll notice here's her class app in the bottom right corner. She has it broken down by reading, writing, math. Oh, let's see if it loads for a second. and here's her classroom app page. So this is the one from the school district. The other one was just an example that I got elsewhere. But again, something to keep in mind when you are creating resources for parents. And again, there is a video walking through how to do that, but again, reach out to one of us if needed. Okay, I'm almost out of time, but I have 3 more really cool things I want to share with you. So thank you for being here. If you have to hop off, I totally get it. This was brought up before we started. So here's an example of using Google Slides and creating a virtual classroom for your students, and then different resources linked here. There's a lot of different examples. This one happens to be a math example. But what we were talking about earlier is a classroom with different books on the shelf, right? And then the student will click on the book, and then it takes them to a digital copy of the book or someone reading the book to them via video, right? So there's a lot of options with this. But what this example is the student will then click on the different math tools, and it will take them to a website. And let me show you. Again, I put the copy down at the bottom so that you have access to that as well. But when I open this, again, I didn't create this one. Someone else just created this and is willing to share, which is pretty cool. But again, you'll notice that when you click on one of the math icons, whether present mode would be the easiest for students, but it will take them to a 10 frame page when they click on the 10 frame. Or if they click on the base 10 blocks, it takes them to a place where they can manipulate base 10 blocks, different sites. So regardless of if you're going to create one of those for your class, I definitely recommend using this as just a tool for yourself as a teacher of where you can access some of these different resources, whether it's money or time, dice, etc. Okay, second to last thing, if you are someone who uses Google Classroom or maybe Google Forms or Google Sites, you can create your own banner along the top, which gives your Google Classroom or Site or Google Form a more personalized approach. When you are doing that in Google Slides, you're going to want to resize your Google slide to be 1600 by 400 pixels. So again, very similar to if you're resizing your slide by 8.5 by 8.5 by 11. Again, you go down to File. You're going to go to Page Setup. And then when you click this down arrow, you would select Custom. Here's where you can change it to inches, but if you also click the drop down, you do have the ability to change it to pixels. When you change it to this 1600 by 400 pixels, it's going to give you a long and skinny slide presentation where then you can add things, and when you are ready, you download that as a JPEG image, and then you can upload it to one of those platforms. Again, Google Classroom. Here's an example of a Google Classroom one. Or if you wanted to do a Google Form, right, you could download that and put it in as a personalized Google Form. And then the last example would be a Google Site, which you'll notice on our instructional technology website, we did do a personalized banner using the school district's new logo and some text. So those are some options for you. And then the last thing that I want to share is if you are into Bitmojis or maybe just creating your own GIF, you can do that using Google Slides. So here's just a real rough example of a Bitmoji that I created. I found a background and my Bitmoji and then created a GIF together. But what you do is you're going to create multiple slides on a Google slide and create those static images. And then when they cycle through, it would look like your character or whatever it is, it has movement, right? So you'll notice I have the background, the exact same background, and I just copied it multiple times. And if I were to click through this presentation, it looks like my character is moving. which is great. But maybe you want to create a GIF of that, so like a short video clip that just continues to rotate through, like my example on my slide. And to do that, you're going to actually use a website called Tall Tweets. It is very, very user-friendly. All you do is, we're not going to use this top part, but if you use Tall Tweet Classics, all it asks you to do is select the presentation that you want to turn into a GIF. So I have my my animated GIF example, right? So it has 7 slides on it. All I'm going to do is click Select Presentation. It will ask you to sign into your Google account if you've never done that before. But once you're signed in, I can select my presentation. And then it gives you some additional formatting options. So I can pick how long I would like the image to stay on one slide. So whether it's 1 second, half a second, a second and a half, it doesn't matter. So again, here's, if I wanted to change the size, I could do that. I could change it to pixels. Or here's that slide duration, so 1 second. And then I could also change the sequence if I didn't have it set up perfectly, but I do. And then all I have to do is create the GIF. Again, very easy. It will allow you to download it to your computer so you can insert it to an email or attach it to Google Classroom, however you would like to share this information. Okay, so again, I know I went over. I had a lot to share. I'll remain on if you have any questions for me. But again, thank you for being here, and I hope you have a wonderful day and got some fun ideas of how to use Google Slides come the fall.